I want to talk to you a little bit about exactly what spiritual preterism means to me. Preterism, of course, is the belief that revelation and the Bible has been fulfilled. I believe that it is the revelation of Jesus Christ, that it's the revealing of Him. And all of those things, if you follow this channel, are simply those prophecies from the Old Testament that have been made true through Jesus. That was God's master plan. Now, you'll find in full preterists a different scenario where they go and they look at AD 70 as a big milestone, okay? I do not look at it from that perspective. I don't look at people that are historicists any different than futurists in trying to put some literal interpretation on Revelation. Now, if you study out Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21, which is the Olivet Discourse, you'll see that they do parallel in many ways to Revelation chapter 6 and chapter 7. So that being said, that does not mean that Revelation 6 and Revelation chapter 7 necessarily is talking about those exact events. If you look at the Old Testament prophets, there was a spiritual application to their prophecies as well as a physical application, to where when they said Babylon is coming to destroy the city, it could have spiritual significance as well as literal Nebuchadnezzar coming to destroy Jerusalem for their idolatry and adultery of worshiping other gods. So when you look at these different factors, yes, Jesus was acting as a prophet, but he also, when you look at the revelation of Jesus Christ and the revealing of Him and those spiritual accomplishments that He satisfied, you will see that that is part of it when you look at those undoing of the seals. And there's no denying there's a parallel there. But revelation is not to be understood in the physical sense. It is to be understood spiritually. It is to be understood as those spiritual prophecies that were prophesied to come true. And when we see that, those things mean something. Each one of those, as interpreted from the Bible, mostly the Old Testament itself. And if you line these things up, they make perfect sense. I'll give you another, for instance, Revelation chapter 12, you see the dragon cast out of heaven. Now, Jesus says, I saw Satan fall like lightning. Okay? He says that when He was here. So if that was a future prophecy of something that was going to happen later, why did Jesus say, I saw Satan fall like lightning? Okay? Because that had already happened. And that happened, not to go into it too much with this video, but that happened at the time of Jesus' baptism. And you see that in the beginning of chapter 12, where the child is caught up to heaven, and that is representation of Jesus' baptism. All that is described and talked about in various chapters of the book, which will be out soon. I have this book not to try to profit off of people, but to try to get the truth out there. And that's what we intend to do, that it's the revelation of Jesus Christ. And this affects so many different things. It affects how you think about the future, whether you want to go to school, to college, whether maybe you want to even have a baby because you're worried about some AntiChrist or some tribulation period or something else that's going on in current events. Well, let me tell you, Revelation's not about current events. It's not about CNN and Time Magazine and all of those things and trying to fit that square peg into a round hole. Let me tell you, when you start getting the perspective that it's the revelation of Jesus Christ, you'll understand. When you start paralleling these spiritual things, when you start understanding the New Jerusalem as a bride adorned for her husband, and that the church is the bride, and that the kingdom of God has been established because of Jesus, and it's a kingdom that reigns in your hearts. Men will not say, lo here or lo there, behold, the kingdom is within you. That's the kingdom that Jesus come to establish. But everyone is still not understanding it being synonymous with the New Jerusalem, and that we walk on golden streets as Christians. We have pearly gates of praise. We have high walls of salvation as prophesied in Isaiah. We are built on the 12 foundations of the apostles, Jesus Christ being the chief cornerstone, Ephesians chapter 2. And look at the New Jerusalem's foundations. 12 foundations with the names of the apostles in those foundations. There's a reason it's as a bride adorned for her husband, because it's the bride of Christ. It's the church. It's a revelation of Jesus Christ that he has established the church, the kingdom of God. The New Jerusalem is a present reality. When you look at other things, like the harlot in Revelation 17 and 18, a simple parallel of Ezekiel 16, and notice all through the New Testament in several places, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killeth the prophets. That harlot has a golden cup in her hand full of the blood of the prophets and the saints. Who killed the prophets? Jerusalem killed their own prophets. Now that has nothing to do with modern day, okay? This has to do with apostate Jerusalem that spiritually committed adultery, because as you read Ezekiel 16, you will see that she was adorned in purple and gold and silver and fine linen, and all those things trace back all the way to the tabernacle of Moses. So if you look at her, she is adorned in those things. And read the second half of Ezekiel 16. It talks nothing but her harlotry, her whoredom, her adultery, over and fornication, over and over and over again. Who killed their own prophets according to the New Testament? Who was the harlot in the Old Testament? Who was adorned like that harlot? That is apostate Jerusalem spiritually. They fell, enter in the New Jerusalem, the church, according to the parable, the ones that will render the fruits, the spiritual fruits to God. Jerusalem, in the spiritual sense, was kicked off of that land. They killed their own messengers. They killed their own prophets. They finally sent the Son, and they killed their own son, killed the Son. And Jesus says in a parable, what will the owner of the land do? He will kick them off the land and give it to others who will render him the fruit, just like you would do with a tenant that wasn't paying the rent. You would kick them out and you get another tenant that would pay the rent. Simple story in the sense, but it has a deep spiritual meaning regarding apostate Jerusalem and regarding the church, the New Jerusalem, and what happened there. So as you study these things out, and we can go into the bowl judgments, the trumpet judgments, the breaking of the seals, so many other aspects we could go in, and we're going into those things in the book. And I hope you'll follow along to try to get the truth. Quit all the fear out there that the end is near. Realize what's right before your eyes. Look with your spiritual eyes and see Jesus the King, but quit looking for a physical king. Quit looking for a robe and a crown. He was a spiritual king, and you had to see him with your spiritual eyes. He was the King of Kings, and there's other kings that now roam the earth. So make sure that you're looking with your spiritual eyes, and you will see that this indeed is the revelation of Jesus Christ. God bless.